Why did Yao Dan's decision to allow Hun Xuzi into the Yao Clan become the greatest mistake of his life? And when the Nihility Devouring Flame finally appeared, how deeply did despair consume him? In the latest events of Battle Through the Heavens, Yao Dan, the chief of the Yao Clan, finally made his formal appearance. His cultivation had already reached the level of a 7-Star Dou Saint. However, no one expected that the moment he appeared, he would personally deliver his entire clan into the jaws of destruction. Before the medicine ceremony had even officially begun, Hun Xuzi arrived despite not being on the invitation list. His appearance immediately caused an uproar among the Yao Clan elders. The Hall of Souls had spent years capturing souls across the continent and had even begun targeting alchemists. There was every possibility that Hun Xuzi had been controlling these operations from behind the scenes. Yao Lao also recognized him immediately. Years ago, Hun Xuzi had infiltrated the small pill tower to steal its secret alchemy techniques. He later betrayed his master, severely wounded him, and escaped. His true identity was the Soul Clan's foremost alchemist, and his status within the clan was so high that even Hun Xuzi could not compare to him. The truth was already obvious. Hun Xuzi was ruthless and had stained his hands with the blood of countless alchemists. Behind him stood the Soul Clan, the true culprit responsible for the mysterious destruction of the Ling and Shui clans. Elder Yao Wanhua immediately stepped forward to object. He firmly opposed allowing Hun Xuzi to participate in the medicine ceremony, let alone permitting him to enter the heart of the Yao clan's territory. Yet Yao Dan refused to listen. His mind was consumed by the dignity of the Yao clan as one of the ancient clans. He believed the medicine ceremony was the highest-level alchemy gathering on the Dou continent, watched by alchemists from across the world. If the Yao clan expelled someone without presenting clear evidence, it would make them appear narrow-minded and overbearing. But when the clan had expelled Yao Lao years ago, why had no one cared about dignity or fairness then? In the end, Yao Dan was simply too confident. He believed that as a 7-Star Dou Saint, no one present could overpower him. As long as he personally kept watch over Hun Xuzi, he thought he could suppress him the moment he attempted anything suspicious. Blinded by that confidence, Yao Dan publicly declared that as long as Hun Xuzi obeyed the Yao clan's rules, he would be treated as a guest. With those words, he personally opened the gates to the deepest region of the Yao clan for Hun Xuzi. What he did not realize was that Hun Xuzi had been waiting for precisely that permission. Throughout the subsequent alchemy competition, Hun Xuzi never openly turned against them. Even when Xiao Yan seized control of the pill lightning he had summoned, causing Hun Xuzi to unintentionally assist Xiao Yan in refining a 9th-tier mysterious pill and become the laughingstock of the entire gathering, he endured the humiliation without retaliating. Everyone assumed that he was simply capable of accepting defeat. Xiao Yan, however, sensed that something was wrong. Hun Xuzi was not someone who would silently tolerate such humiliation. If he dared to provoke the Yao clan during its most important ceremony, then he must have had something powerful supporting him. Sure enough, after Xiao Yan subdued the 9th-tier mysterious pill and Yao Lao earned the right to have his name recorded upon the clan monument, Hun Xuzi suddenly spoke. He asked Yao Dan to temporarily lend him the 2Shi ancient god jade. The moment those words left his mouth, every Yao clan elder turned deathly pale. This was no longer a simple provocation. Hun Xuzi was openly attempting to rob the Yao clan within its own territory. Only then did Yao Dan finally erupt in fury. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Hun Xuzi stopped concealing his aura. Black flames surged violently around him as he revealed the overwhelming cultivation of a peak 7-Star Dou Saint. He had endured repeated setbacks and public humiliation without exposing his true intentions. That patience alone revealed just how terrifying and calculating he truly was. Yao Dan finally understood. The mysterious destruction of the Ling and Shui clans had not been an accident. The Soul Clan had been planning everything for a very long time. In panic, Yao Dan immediately ordered his people to tear open spatial passages and send warnings to the Gu and Yen clans. However, every spatial passage collapsed the moment it appeared. All communication fluctuations were forcibly blocked. Only then did Yao Dan feel a true chill of despair. Hun Xuzi had already completed his preparations. The entire medicine realm had been sealed, transforming it into a closed prison from which no one could escape. Outside the central Yao clan territory, Experts from the various sects who had come to observe the ceremony sensed the approaching danger and attempted to flee. Yet the moment they touched the borders of the medicine realm, endless black light descended and slaughtered them without mercy. The entire world suddenly darkened. Black flames seeped through the void, devouring the Dou Qi and life force of everyone they touched. Xiao Yan recognized that power immediately. It belonged to the true body of the Nihility Devouring Flame. The Yao Clan's catastrophe had finally arrived. The instant the Nihility Devouring Flame revealed itself, Yao Dan's despair reached its peak. Hun Xuzi stood high above the clan and coldly declared that the Yao Clan was destined to perish that day. With no other choice, Yao Dan exhausted the full foundation of his clan and activated the Yao Clan's ultimate defensive formation, the heaven-transforming medicine formation. The strength of every expert in the clan was gathered together. Countless rare medicinal ingredients from the surrounding mountains were sacrificed, while an immense quantity of medicinal pills was used to power the formation. In the end, they summoned the remnant soul of the Yao Clan's ancestor to make one final stand. However, even the remnant soul of the Medicine Emperor, whose strength had reached the level of an 8-star Dou Saint, was incapable of resisting the horrifying power of the 9-star Dou Saint Nihility Devouring Flame. To destroy the formation, the Nihility Devouring Flame employed an unimaginably cruel method. It refined millions of innocent living beings within the medicine realm into a gigantic blood-colored pill sphere. It then used the bloodline power of the Yao Clan's own people to bombard the defensive formation. Yao Dan could do nothing but watch as his clansmen were swallowed alive. The remnant soul of the clan's ancestor shattered piece by piece. The protective formation that had defended the Yao Clan for countless generations finally collapsed. Yao Dan had once been a confident and dignified clan chief, who believed everything remained under his control. Now, he had become a powerless man trapped in a hopeless situation. With the formation destroyed, the Yao Clan lost its final barrier. There was no longer any possibility of reversing the situation. The once proud and authoritative Yao Dan cast aside every trace of dignity belonging to an ancient clan chief. He humbly begged Xiao Yan for help. He entrusted Yao Tian, Yao Ling, and the other members of the Yao Clan's younger generation to Xiao Yan, asking only that he preserve the last surviving trace of the bloodline that the Yao Clan had maintained for thousands of years. However, no one expected that the Soul Clan had sent more than the Nihility Devouring Flame. They had also mobilized the 4 demon saints of the Soul Clan. Xiao Yan sensed the terrifying aura of a 7-star Dou Saint from each of them. Even with his current strength, he did not dare remain there any longer. With the assistance of the Shenong Elder and the others, Xiao Yan led the surviving members of the Yao Clan's younger generation toward an escape route. The Soul Clan had no intention of allowing them to leave. They did not merely want to annihilate the Yao Clan. They also wanted to seize the fragment of the 2 Shi ancient god Jade in Xiao Yan's possession. Hun Yan, one of the 4 demon saints, abandoned the main battlefield and turned to pursue Xiao Yan's group. Knowing that escape was impossible unless they fought, Xiao Yan and the others prepared to risk their lives. The North King charged forward to intercept Hun Yan. Xiao Yan suddenly clenched his hand. 6 different heavenly flames began rotating and merging above his palm. Within several breaths, they condensed into a dazzling 6-colored fire lotus. The moment the fire lotus took shape, Xiao Yan swung his arm. The destructive lotus shot forward like a bolt of lightning, trailing a brilliant tail of fire behind it. It exploded near Hun Yan with a deafening roar. A violent firestorm swept across heaven and earth. However, everyone soon saw monstrous black Dou Qi erupting from within the flames, forcibly suppressing the destructive storm. When Xiao Yan saw Hun Yan emerge without any obvious injuries, his expression changed slightly. The strength of a late-stage 7-star Dou Saint was simply too terrifying. The Shenong Elder stared gravely at Hun Yan. His aura has become unstable. Your attack injured him, but it was not enough to wound him severely. Xiao Yan nodded. He stared at the distant Hun Yan, who was smiling coldly, and drew a deep breath. Senior Shenong, Yao Tian, lend me your heavenly flames. The Shenong Elder and Yao Tian were both startled, but there was no time to question him. The Shenong Elder waved his hand and passed his medicinal staff to Xiao Yan. The flame of life was concealed within it. After a brief hesitation, Yao Dan also opened his mouth and released a cluster of deep brown flames. It was the turtle spirit earth flame, ranked 13th among the heavenly flames. Xiao Yan held the staff in one hand and grasped the turtle spirit earth flame with the other. A strange crystalline radiance spread across his body. He already possessed 6 heavenly flames. With these additional 2 flames, the final fire lotus would contain the power of 8 different heavenly flames. Its destructive force would be unimaginable. As Xiao Yan began merging the 8 flames into a Buddha's Fury Flame Lotus, Hun Yan finally sensed what he was doing. His gaze locked onto the swirling vortex above Xiao Yan's palm. The corner of his eye twitched uncontrollably. Even someone as powerful as Hun Yan felt threatened by the energy gathering within it. Hun Yan struck the North King with a heavy palm and sent it flying. He then moved directly toward Xiao Yan. Yao Lao shouted and attempted to stop him. Streams of Dou Qi shot through the air, but Hun Yan did not even look at them. With a wave of his sleeve, he scattered every attack. A group of insignificant juniors thinks they can escape from the Soul Clan? Keep dreaming. Hun Yan instantly appeared before Xiao Yan. His blackened fingers stretched forward like the claws of death. The fierce force generated by his strike slammed heavily into Xiao Yan's body. 5 bloody wounds immediately appeared across the dragon scales covering Xiao Yan. Blood continuously flowed from the injuries. Had the Dragon Phoenix ancient armor not protected him, that single strike might have severely wounded him. Xiao Yan was sent flying backward by the attack. Yet as he flew through the air, a cold smile appeared in his eyes. Explode. The moment his voice sounded, Hun Yan's pupils suddenly contracted. His gaze froze upon an 8-colored fire lotus rotating slowly in front of him. Before he could react, dazzling light erupted from the lotus. Countless beams containing devastating power burst outward in every direction. The destructive energy hidden inside the lotus followed immediately afterward. Brilliant light filled the sky like a blazing sun, illuminating almost the entire medicine realm. An indescribable shock wave spread across the heavens. The temperature became so intense that even the surrounding mountain ranges began to melt. The destructive storm continued for a long time before gradually dissipating. A dark figure finally fell from the center of the explosion and crashed heavily into the ground. Xiao Yan looked toward it. Hun Yan's entire body was surrounded by black energy, but his aura was far weaker than before. He had clearly suffered serious injuries. The Shenong elder and the others finally released the breaths they had been holding. It was almost unimaginable that Xiao Yan had managed to force a late-stage 7-Star Dou Saint into such a miserable state. After returning the flame of life and the turtle spirit earth flame, Xiao Yan urgently shouted, "Go!" The explosion tore open the surrounding space. His own condition was equally poor. The 8-colored fire lotus had consumed far more strength than he had expected. Only then did everyone notice that a spatial crack several meters wide had appeared at the center of the explosion. "Hurry!" Xiao Yan urged them again before leading the group toward the spatial crack. On the ground, Hun Yan's face twisted with fury. "Stop them!" Hun Jing, who was still fighting Yao Dan, immediately became gloomy when he saw what had happened. He had not expected Xiao Yan to repel Hun Yan. Just as Hun Jing prepared to withdraw and intercept the escaping group, Yao Dan sensed his intention. A wild and savage smile appeared upon Yao Dan's face. The Dou Qi inside his body suddenly became violently unstable. "Xiao Yan, thank you." As the energy within his body reached its limit, Yao Dan looked toward Xiao Yan, who was leading Yao Dan and the others into the spatial crack. For the first time, a relieved smile appeared on his face. A moment later, an explosion no weaker than the previous 8-colored fire lotus erupted across the blood-soaked medicine realm. In the end, the Yao Clan's ancient jade fell into the hands of the Soul Clan. Almost every member of the clan was killed, and its 1,000-year inheritance was nearly extinguished. Looking back at the tragedy, Yao Dan's decision to allow Hun Xuzi into the Yao Clan was undoubtedly the greatest mistake of his life. He had clung to the meaningless pride of an ancient clan and blindly overestimated his ability to control the situation. He underestimated the Soul Clan's cruelty, cunning, and boundless ambition. His momentary concern for appearances ultimately caused him to open the gates of hell with his own hands, condemning the entire Yao Clan to destruction.